All right, guys, I'm Chris, and this is your 2021 Airstream Flying Cloud. We're gonna get started right here at the front with this front solar guard. I'm gonna reach up on either side and level it out. Doing this is gonna allow us to open this front window. This front window does open outward. It is blocked by this solar guard. So if you wanna open this window, you're gonna have to open the outside solar guard initially. All the rest of the windows in the trailer aren't blocked by anything, so you'll be able to open them from the inside. But I will mention, especially in the summertime, they're gonna tend to stick to the rubber gaskets. So if you've undone the latches and you're pushing on the handles to open the windows and they don't open readily, do not force it. Come outside with an old credit card or a little plastic scraper, come right around the bottom and edge and free it from that gasket, and then you'll be able to open it from the inside. Opening the front solar guard is also going to allow us to open the side solar guards. Now there are rubber gaskets around the edges of these, but over time leaves and dirt will get past them and the windows behind there are going to get dirty. So if you wanted to clean those windows, the screws here and here have a T-shape instead of a screw shape. So you'll just give them a quarter turn, they're going to come out of that channel. They're both going to hinge away from the trailer. Make sure that when you do so that you've got a hold of it. If the wind grabs it and slams it open, there's not a stop and it will put a crease on the side of your trailer. Down here is your battery box, and inside here we have AGM batteries. AGM battery stands for activated glass mat. That means for you guys that they are going to be maintenance free. They are sealed, so you do not have to worry about coming out here and checking the water level on them. 2 fuses in this box I'd like you to be aware of. On this red line in this large case here is a big 30 amp blade fuse. This one is for your tongue jack. Now the tongue jack on this trailer is power. There is a light in case you have to connect at night. This particular tongue jack does not stop immediately when you release the trigger. So you want to let it come to a stop before you reverse directions, but if you forget and suddenly reverse directions, the large fuse and the larger wire will allow it to overamp a little bit. We're going to find a manual crank that will be able to fit right down here in the top. If you've lost power, you will be able to manually crank it on or off the tow vehicle. But if you have lost power, the first thing I want you to check is the fuse because the jack is wired directly to the batteries. Also in here is a small case that has a little standard size 15 amp blade fuse. This one is for this solar plug here. Now in addition to the onboard solar, you can add a portable solar panel. This panel will augment what you already have. So in addition to that, plug it in here, it's already wired into the batteries and it will go ahead and help charge your batteries. Next to that solar plug is where you'll find the handle for your spare tire. This handle is secured with a cotter pin and a slide pin. Pull those, the handle will drop down, your spare's going to slide out this direction. It will be 80 PSI on your spare tires just like your road tires. Next we'll talk about your propane service. You have 2 30-pound bottles and they are already full. In between is an automatic regulator. So if you have both bottles open, when one runs empty, it will automatically switch over to the other bottle internally. There is a post here on the regulator that you can point at one bottle or another and it will pull from that bottle provided it is open. Now there is no gauge here, so I do recommend that you run one bottle open and run one bottle closed. So when you run it empty, you actually have to come outside and open the other bottle. So that way you know that you're running off of that second bottle. You can be a little more conservative with your propane. Start thinking about getting this first bottle filled up. We'll leave this open for now so that we can test a few things on the inside. I also want to point out you've got an external propane port right here. This will feed from your onboard propane, and it is designed to provide power for a small camping stove or maybe even a little space heater. It is a pre-regulated, low pressure, up to 25,000 BTU, and there's a little rubber hose inside that you'll be able to connect to that fitting. Come around the corner here, we've got your gross vehicle weight and tire pressure sticker. Again, it's going to be 80 PSI on your tires. You want to maintain that pressure for best towing and also best tire wear. Now, this stud here, as well as its friend down there at the end, and their twins on the other side will drop your stabilizers. When we get down here to the end, I'll grab a drill and we'll show you how to drop one down. Next will be the storage tube for your sewer line. This tube down here is going to hold a 15-foot collapsible sewer hose. This one's just for storage. We'll actually connect this up further back to do your waste clean out. Next, of course, is your outdoor shower. If you're using the outdoor shower with the onboard freshwater tank, to get pressure here, you will have to turn on the onboard water pump. When you are connected to your city water connection, the city water connection is going to provide pressure throughout the trailer, so you will already have water pressure here. Also, with the on-demand water heater, the default for the control panel on the water heater is on. So if the battery on your trailer is already on, all you have to do is open the hot water valve here, and within about 10 seconds you will have hot water out here as well. Remember, the water heater is propane fired, so your propane must be open for that to occur. Next is going to be the fill port for your freshwater tank. This is just a gravity port. So you're going to stick your water hose in here and fill it right up. I have found that if you stick the water hose in there and give it just a little turn, the friction will help hold it in the pipe, but it is not threaded, so do not turn it very hard. Now I'm going to show you how you can set up the water monitor, which is inside on the far wall. So you can look in the window here and watch the status of your water tanks as you're filling and emptying them. But if you're filling the freshwater tank and you lose track of it, it's going to come out of the vent port here instead of inside the trailer. Now I want you to make sure you're cycling through the water in there every 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, the water will start to taste a little stale. If you store the trailer outside in the summertime in the heat, after about 30 days, that water is going to start to smell like feet. The drain for the freshwater tank is here in between the two tires. There's a little white petcock. It has a little flag at the top. Simply turn the flag towards the rear of the trailer and the water will slowly drain from your freshwater tank. Next is going to be your city water connection. This is where you'll connect your water hose at your camping site for your on-demand water. This has a built-in 50 PSI regulator, so you do not need to add an external water regulator. It also has, it's also plumbed through the onboard water pump. So if you're staying at a camping site that has weak water pressure, you can turn on the onboard water pump and it will boost the pressure as the water passes through it. But remember, the city water connection and the freshwater tank are two separate systems. You will not fill the freshwater tank from the city water connection. So the way they work is the city water and the freshwater come together at the water pump. When you turn the water pump on, if it creates a vacuum, it's going to draw water from the freshwater tank. But with water already pushing through from the city water connection, no vacuum is created. Simply boost that water as it passes through. Below that is your waste cleanout valve. When you attach your water hose here, it puts water directly into the black waste tank, just where the toilet empties. It's designed to help you flush that one out. Your waste cleanout happens down here. There is a light in case you have to connect at night. On the left-hand side, the main holding tank is your black tank, and on the right-hand side, the auxiliary tank is your gray tank. And it does say wash here next to that to help remind you to do that one second. You always begin with the black tank. Before you pull the valve, I want you to connect your water hose to the waste cleanout valve and start to introduce fresh water. You will have set the monitor up inside so you can watch the status of the tank as the levels change. Fill the freshwater tank all the way up to the top with fresh water. the wastewater tank, so that way you have the maximum volume of water to help carry all that solid waste out. You'll notice the water comes out of the waste port much faster than you can get it back in the upper port, so when you see the flow diminish, close the valve, fill it right back up to the top with fresh water. You're going to fill and empty this tank 3 or 4 times until that flow goes from muddy to clear. Once it's clean, close the valve. Continue to allow water to fill into the tank so that you've got a little bit in there for your waste chemical to dissolve and diffuse into. I will typically fill it until it reads about 5%. Turn your water off, go inside and add your chemical into the toilet at that point so you don't forget. Leave this chemically treated water in the tank all the time so that way as you tow the trailer, it's going to slosh around and help keep the inside clean. Even if that water were to freeze, it's only going to be a little bit on the bottom. You should have plenty of expansion space. Come outside and do the gray tank second. The gray tank is going to have mostly soapy water from your sinks and showers. It's going to help wash this pipe out. Do not open both valves at the same time. If you do, the black tank will flow into the gray tank and contaminate it. Do not leave your valves open at your camping site. If you are staying at a camping site that offers a sewer connection, you can keep your hose attached for convenience, but you will not be able to create a flow-through situation with these water tanks. Simply, the water will run out and the solid waste will fall to the bottom of the tank and dry out and begin to smell. So you can keep your hose attached, but you cannot keep your valves open. You must leave them shut and use the capacity of your tanks. Next, we have the service access for your refrigerator. This allows us to work on the refrigerator without actually pulling the fridge out. But do not be tempted to use it for storage. It needs the airspace inside there to operate properly, and anything you stow inside there is going to bounce around as you tow and damage those electronics. Moving back, we've got your camp power coming in here. It's a 50 amp service on this trailer at 125 volts. This is your shore cord. It'll get rolled up and it's going to go home with you guys. It's 25 feet long, excuse me. Below that is a cable and satellite port. They are labeled cable and satellite, and they will terminate in different places inside the trailer. So we'll talk again about that when we get inside. This is the exhaust for your furnace. I've already got your bug screen on there. You want to leave that screen on there all the time to prevent those mud dauber wasps from crawling inside. Let me grab my drill. We'll draw one of your stabilizers down. Now you have a manual crank inside that will enable you to do this, but it is a 19 millimeter or a 3/4 inch hex. Using a drill is totally fine. Before you draw the stabilizers down, you want to make sure that you have leveled the trailer front to back and that you have disconnected your tow vehicle. If you operate the tongue jack with the stabilizers down, you're going to put too much pressure on one end or another, and you're going to cause them to collapse. So if your camping site is unlevel side to side, the first thing you'll do is back the low side up on some blocks to level it side to side, disconnect your tow vehicle, and then you'll level it front to back with the tongue jack. Once you have the trailer level, it is as simple as just cranking them on down. Run it down until it touches the ground. Give it just a little extra pressure. I will typically start in this corner and work my way counterclockwise around. So I'll do the 2 rear first, followed by the 2 front. But the most important thing for you to remember about your stabilizer jacks is to bring them back up before you tow out. Just like so. Now let me grab my awning tool and we'll pull your awnings out. Now, the awning on this side has a little hook style travel latch. You want to make sure you disengage that first. Grabbing the strap and pulling away from the trailer. We will capture it here on this hook. Now, if you guys are fairly tall, you may not need to, but if you've got someone short putting the awning away, you can use the tool to do so. Tell them to run it to right about there and let it snap in those last couple inches so it's nice and tight and it doesn't wrinkle. Of course, please remember to re-engage your travel latch before you tow out. Coming around the back, starting at the top, we have a backup camera. This camera has a microphone. So whoever's back here giving directions, if you speak towards the camera, you can be heard wherever the monitor is, but it is just the one way from the camera to the monitor. The awning on the rear does not have a latch, so we will just pull this one right out. These stalks here must be rotated all the way around and captured there. They are simply too long to go this way. So all the way around. And of course your strap here is going to roll up and Velcro back on itself out of your view. One other thing I will mention, because you have the hatch on the rear, you will not be able to open the hatch with the awning out. It's going to run into the awning right there, and you don't want to use the awning to hold the hatch. It's not strong enough for that. Speaking of your hatch, once the awning is folded in, it will open much, much more. In here we have a bug screen, so that way you can enjoy it with it open. And I will also mention right here by the end of the hatch is a AC plug that will work off of the inverter circuit. Now, down below your bumper or your trunk storage is your wet storage compartment. In here we have the manual crank for your stabilizer as well as your awning tool. When this is closed, it's still open here on the ends. So that's why it's your wet storage compartment. Don't put anything in this one that you're worried about getting wet. Close the hatch here. Make sure you have secured it. Just like so. Coming around the corner, we'll head up to the front. Starting here at the front, we have your main outside storage compartment. In here, we've hidden a few items. They're going to be your 4-way collapsible tire tool, the manual crank for your tongue jack, also a 3-foot propane line. Around the corner here is where we're gonna find, if I can reach it, your 50 to 30 amp drop pigtail. So this will enable you to plug into a 30 amp service. It is gonna limit you to one air conditioner. It's not one specific air conditioner, it's whichever one you turn on first. And we'll talk again about that when we're talking about the HVAC control. If you'll look at this rear bulkhead here, you'll see a little mouse hole. Inside that mouse hole, we're gonna have a little valve that will drain the feed line for your water heater. So when you're winterizing, you can open that valve and push the water out of that line as well. Next to that, we have your on-demand water heater. This is not a tankless water heater, it's an on-demand water heater. So you are not gonna have to worry about doing anything specific to it to winterize the trailer. There is a master power switch and a pressure relief valve out here that will allow us to service it. The default for the control panel inside is on. We will find the control panel for the water heater in the bathroom. So when you turn the batteries on for the trailer, the water heater control will already be on, but it's an on-demand water heater. So it's not actually gonna do anything until you draw some water through it. Please remember it is propane fired no matter when you're using it. So there will always be a hot propane exhaust coming out of here. Make sure you don't block this with anything flammable like the back of a fabric chair. Here is your external AC plug. Unlike the one at the rear, this one is only available when you're plugged into your shore service. So you will not get any power out of this one off of just the batteries. And of course, next to the patio light is where we'll find the back of the vent hood. There are two little tabs that are holding these doors shut. You want to push those up and out of the way to allow it to vent, but make sure you have secured it when you're towing. This door is made of plastic. Over time, the flapping is going to cause some damage. Now, we'll pull your awning out on this side. You can do so with the door open, but we'll shut it just so we can see a little better. This awning has the same little hook style travel latch. You want to make sure you've disengaged that. We'll start by doing that, and then the ones on the end are going to unscrew. All right, now when you pull the awning out on the curb side, it is very important that you pull away from the trailer and not straight down so you don't scratch the side of your trailer with your awning tool. So grabbing the strap and pulling away, pull the strap to you, get rid of the tool, keep pulling it down until the flap comes out. Make sure you've got a hold of it until you can get down here to the end. Grab the arm, place it up here on the head. Always place it here, do not ever place it here. If you put it here, it's gonna bend right there and it's gonna break off. Once we've got it in place, we'll push it forward to latch it, just like so. Come down here to the other end. Same thing. Now, what we're doing here is the end here is spring loaded, and we're pulling it until it latches up here. So we'll get it in here and latch it. Now at this point we can start to extend it. You have 4 of these notches. You can do up to 2 at a time without it binding. I will typically start with just 1. We'll come down here and do a couple. So there's 2, and we'll come down here and do a couple more. All right. Now you'll notice how I've got it at an angle. This is a sunshade. So if you have more sunlight coming in from one direction or another, having it at an angle is totally appropriate. It's not a heavy wind or a heavy rain shade. It's made of aluminum. It's designed to be lightweight. Cannot take the torque of heavy wind. And of course, a heavy wind will always accompany a heavy rain. So if it starts to blow or pour, make sure you fold it back in. Excuse me. There is an LED light strip across the top on a dimmer switch, so we can dim that down or turn it off completely. But remember, it does not go off automatically as you fold the awning in. So you want to make sure that if the awning is in, that you have the switch turned off. Your strap here is going to roll up. And eventually we can tuck it into this loop here. Now, putting it away is as simple as bringing it back out. So we'll drop a couple of notches here. Come over here and drop a couple. We're going to pull here to release, and we're going to set this on the travel wrist. All you have to do is set it in place. Doesn't need to be latched. Come down here to the other end. Make sure you've got a hold of it. First, we'll drop this notch and make sure you've got a hold of it when you pull here to release. You do not want to allow it to come rolling in on its own. So you can either grab the flap or just kind of put your hand up here until you can get over to the strap. Give it a little help. All right, and once again, if you need to, you can use the awning tool to return it. I want you to run it to right about there. Let it snap in those last couple inches so it's nice and tight and it doesn't wrinkle. Please make sure you remember to re-engage your travel latches. I will typically start with the little hook style one. And then we'll re-engage the ends. All right. All right, so we'll talk about your main entry door next. A little bit of trivia about these doors is it takes 8 hours to build them, and they were built in pairs. So this has always been the screen door to go with this main entry door. It also takes 11 hours to install these doors. So as you can imagine, we go to great lengths not to replace one. Having said that, it will come out of shape, especially the screen door being very thin and lightweight. Over time, your normal use is going to cause it to distort somewhat. The main thing that's going to distort that door is if you have it closed like that, you close the main door onto it. They were built as a pair. They're designed to be closed as a pair. So you just want to make sure you have them secured together. The reason is you have a thick rubber gasket and a two-stage latch. So if you do not close the door with enough force, that second stage does not engage. Now you can push it, but the door was designed to be slammed. So don't be afraid to give it a little force there. Now the large key with the brass end is your deadbolt key. And the smaller key with the little silver end is going to be for your latch. The deadbolt on this trailer is a post. Take care that's not sticking out when you go to slam the door. But use this when you're towing. It's going to do a much better job of keeping the door shut than this locking claw. When this is locked, it is still open and it will close around that stud, but you will be able to theoretically twist or tweak the trailer and have it come flying open. This post is going to prevent that. Do not leave your key in the door and open the door all the way. If you do, you're going to put a dent in a $10,000 panel and you're going to break your key off. It is also possible to very easily lock yourself out. If you lock the latch here and slam the door is now closed and locked. I do always recommend you make a plain copy of just the latch key without the little plastic shoulder and find a secure place on the trailer itself to store it. Now, your entry step. To get the lower step folded away, the first thing you want to do is push in on the hinges and fold that step straight up. From here, you're going to roll it onto the upper step. In order to stow them both, you're going to lift slightly to release the hinges, and you're going to slam it up underneath. Make sure that when you do so, you do it from the center and not from the sides, so you don't pinch your fingers. Now, in order to get them back out, you can grab one hook or another. They are attached, but when you pull these up, pull them up and hold it. Don't just pop it so it doesn't catch the step as it goes by. In order to get the lower step out, I want you to lift the rear of the step towards you and push the front edge towards the trailer. If you allow that front edge to come forward, you're going to wind up with the step upside down. So push the front towards the trailer and roll it all the way around. Now, as we come inside, I want to mention, right here by the door, we have a fire extinguisher and also a drawer. This drawer is suspended. In here, I have hidden your sister's bug screen. This came out of Michaela's office, which is where we found the one for your trailer as well. Just remember that this is actually a drawer that is suspended, so don't put anything in this one that's super heavy like a Dutch oven or something. Over here on the other side, at the bottom, your master battery disconnect. Turns everything in the trailer off for storage. Above that, two switches here are the two outside lights. So you have a step light and the big round one on the side, the patio light. Also, the overhead lights, just like the awning, are on a dimmer switch, so we can dim them down or turn them off completely. And then we've hidden a little storage back here for you guys as well. Now, come on in, Brian. Up here in this cabinet is where the DVD player and the monitor for your backup camera is. Before we get there, I will talk about your radio over here on the wall. The radio can be paired with your phones. The little code to do so is going to be a combination of the JL Audio and the Media Master 50. So the code is actually going to be JLAMM50. That's what you'll see on your phone. To get it to pair, you're going to select Source, come over here to Bluetooth, select that, and then you must go to Connect New Device. Now what I'll do is go in here and I'm going to delete these other two devices off of here. So that way from now on it'll just be you guys. All right, and then we'll go ahead and turn that off. Cover it with the cover. Back to the DVD player. This is also a Blu-ray player. Behind this box is where we'll find the termination point for the satellite port on the side of the trailer. So you can take this box loose, and coming out of the wall here will be the other end of the coax cable. It is set up for you to add a splitter box back there, plug the receiver and the DVD player into the splitter box, and it will send the signal for the satellite out onto both televisions on the HDMI 1 slot, which is currently where you'll find the DVD player. Also, we have the monitor for your backup camera in here as well. In here we have your bag of service manuals. I also mentioned that the legs, to release them from the floor, you're going to push this little black button here and unscrew them. Just like so. So we'll get rid of the legs. And there is a little spot in the wardrobe specifically designed to hang them. Go ahead and head that way. So two little clips here on the wall. Just like so. Now you can take the tabletop, slip it underneath the mattress, or the cushions rather, to make it into a bed. And then you will simply take the short end of the cushions off here and here, put them right in the middle. There is also a specific place to store the table underneath the main bed. If you'll come this way, Brian. We'll head back here. We're going to lift the bed up. And under here we'll find a slot that we can slide this table into. For storage, just like that, specifically designed for it. Of course, while in here I'll also mention you've got a couple of storage tubs and then your main breaker and fuse boxes right here as well. All of your breakers are listed on this sticker here. The one at the second one from the end is the GFI reset for all plugs on the trailer. Just like at home, you must turn it off before it'll reset. And none of these will reset if you're not connected to a 110 power source. Fuses are listed on this sticker here, mostly just your standard 15 amp blade fuse with a few exceptions. When one of the fuses goes out, you will have a little red LED light that appears next to it that you should be able to see through this window here. Go ahead and return this and we'll head back to the front. Now I also want to mention we have another bed right here that's going to pull right out. This one does not have a latch. Also remember, this one is unsupported, so no jumping jacks on this portion. You'll just take the short ends off and place it right here to fulfill the bed. Below, of course, we've got a little storage here with some tubs, as well as over here. In between is the intake for your furnace. Make sure that if you're using the furnace, you don't have that blocked with any blankets or towels. Over here on the wall, we have your sea level monitor. This is going to give you your battery voltage, that is 13.4 volts, and also the water tank levels. The water tank levels are displayed in a percentage. So your fresh tank is 50% full, half full. Gray tank is empty, and your black tank is 10% full. On any of the water tanks, when you press the button twice, you'll get a little dot that appears next to the digit. That dot is going to hold the value on the screen for about 5 minutes. So as you're filling and emptying the tanks, you can watch from the window across from it. This is true for all 3 water tanks, but not the batteries. Doesn't matter how many times you push that button, within a few seconds the battery voltage is going to disappear. Also located here is the switch for your onboard water pump. This will draw water from your fresh tank or boost the water that's coming through your city water connection. This is an on-demand water pump, so it's going to pressure up and stop. It's not going to come back on until you create a demand. Just like so. So if you guys are boondocking, you're camping without being plugged into a shore service, you can leave the water pump turned on during the day without fear of it drawing your batteries down. It doesn't draw any power until you draw some water through it. Next is going to be your solar monitoring panel. The solar system in this trailer is automatic, so as long as there is sunlight on the panels, it's already charging your batteries. The setup and the select switch allows us to change over to charge lithium batteries. So the controller in here will also charge lithiums if you make that upgrade. Next to that is your inverter control. Little press of the button here is going to turn it on. The inverter is going to power the one plug by the hatch and the two plugs that the TVs are plugged into. This is to enable you to use the television and the DVD player when you're boondocking. Those devices require an AC signal, and when you're boondocking, all you have available is the DC that is stored in your batteries. This will invert that DC back to AC to be used by those devices only. But remember, it is a 1,000 watt inverter, so you don't want to overload it. It will give you the battery display. It'll also tell you what's coming in over the shore and any draw that's occurring when you're drawing from it. A short press of the button turns it on. To turn it off, you must hold your finger on the button until you get it to flash. Flash. Next, we have your vent hood, as well as a light, and then of course below is your range. Now you must open your propane bottles to get this to work initially. We'll turn the knob here. Click the igniter, just like so. Now I will mention the igniter is only going to work on the range and not on the oven below. You'll have to use a long lighter or a kitchen match to get the oven below to light. And right behind where these two little screws are is a little silver plate. That's where you place the match, right here on either side. Lights the pilot. Switch here is going to control the knobs and the oven light. And finally, I will mention, if you've been cooking on it and it's nice and hot, give it a chance to cool before you close the lid. The lid is made of tempered glass. It could possibly shatter. Back up over here, we've got your TV. We're going to go ahead and grab one of your remotes. I've hidden them all in this top drawer here. Now, the TV is running off of our local television signal. Around the corner is where we'll find the booster for the digital antenna. There is a white plate that has a green light. When the green light is lit, it is powering the digital antenna on the roof. It's allowing you to draw in both your local signal for your TV and also for the radio. But this is a two-way switch, so we will press this little black button here. Signal freezes. It's now allowing the signal to pass through from the cable port on the side of the TV. So remember, the satellite port terminates where the DVD player is, and the cable port terminates already wired into both televisions. But in order to allow the signal to pass through, you must turn the booster off. Go ahead and turn your TVs off. Also want to mention in here is the little remote for your DVD player, as well as the key for the latch on the bathroom door. Backing up here, we have your refrigerator. This refrigerator is dual propane and AC power. So it's got an on-off switch, an auto gas, and a temperature set. When it's in auto, it's going to pull from that 110 power first. Failing to detect that, it will automatically switch over to propane. You can force that by pressing this button here. The little dot's going to move over. It's going to go through 2 ignition cycles before it sets a warning that it did not light. If it sets a warning, it's probably just because your propane bottles are either empty or closed. Remember, this refrigerator takes 7 or 8 hours to get completely cold initially. So we do recommend you plug it in, get it cold overnight on your 110 power. That's the most efficient way to get it cold. It's actually fairly efficient to run it off of propane if it's already cold. With it already cold, as long as you leave the door shut, it will stay cold in there all by itself without an external power source for 7 or 8 hours. I do recommend you pack it as full as you can with already cold food. And one customer gave me a really clever hack. He took some of those little blue ice things that you would put in your lunch coolers and wedges them in between his food to keep his food from bouncing around. They will actually help hold the cold in there. So I thought that was a pretty clever idea. I always pass that on. All right, so we've got the dot over here under LP. It's not flashing LP at us, which means it's running off of propane. So we're going to switch it back over to the 110 power and we're going to turn it off. Remember, regardless of the source that it's running on, when you hit the master disconnect by the door, the refrigerator will turn off and your 7 or 8 hours begins at that moment. Over here is your pantry. Your pantry has adjustable shelves. Make sure that you put all the heavy stuff down low. It will wind up there anyways, and if it falls, it's going to be difficult to get the door open. Further back here, the door for your shower is made of glass. This little tab is keeping that door shut as you tow. You do not want it flying open while you're towing down the road. It could possibly shatter. But you can actuate this tab from the inside of the shower. So that way if you turn and bump the door with your elbow, you won't knock it open and spill a bunch of water on the floor. Starting at the top, we have a manual vent fan. This one gets pushed open. Little red button's going to turn it on. Pulled closed, fully manual. So if it starts to rain, you want to make sure you close that one on your own. Your shower head has a pause feature. It's going to pause as you soap up, so that way you can conserve the capacity of your gray tank. We have a little clothesline in here that we can stretch across and tighten down. This one's going to be good for your dish towels or your bathing suits, but not your bath towels. Finally, we will find the light switch on the outside of the shower, so that way you can have fun with whoever's in there having a shower. Step past me, Brian. We'll go over the bathroom next. In the bathroom is where we will find the light switch, so no fun to be had there. But these lights can be turned down. They do not have to be all 4 of them, and it will still operate from the switch. So early in the morning, if you don't want it super bright, you can control that a little bit. Same manual vent fan, pushed open. Little red button's going to turn it on. Make sure this one's closed. If the other one's left open and it starts to rain, it's just going to rain into the shower. Not a big deal. This one will rain onto the floor and make a bit of a mess. Next to your light switch is your water heater control. Like I mentioned, the default for this is on. So when you hit the master disconnect switch, the control panel here will already be turned on. You can turn it off by pressing that button, but if we were to go and hit the disconnect, once we turn it back on, it would just come back on. I have it set to 118 degrees. That's what most folks are used to it coming out of the faucet at. It will get as hot as 124 degrees or as cool as 96 degrees. Now, this is an on-demand water heater. So with your city water connection or your water pump turned on, all we have to do is create a demand and it will come on its own. We'll get a little indicator here that it's working, and when it lights, we'll get a flame in the middle. Once the temperature crosses about 110, it'll already be hot. So let's see, it's cold there. It just went warm right there. And here comes the heat. Once it temps up, it will stay at that temperature until you either turn it off or you run it out of water or propane. One other thing I will mention about this is when you're having a shower, use this to set the temperature of the water and not the faucet in the shower. If you use the shower faucet to set the temperature, what it'll do is cause the water heater to turn on and turn off and turn on and turn off. So you'll either get really hot water or really cold water, really hot water, really cold water. But if you lower this down to about 108, somewhere between 108 and 110 is where most folks want the water on the shower. So set it here, and that way you can turn the shower nozzle completely on and you will have continuous water at the temperature that you want. All right, and then of course your toilet, real simple, with your water on. A partial step is going to fill that bowl, and a full step is going to flush. You do drop your tank chemicals straight down into the toilet clunk. Now, before you tow out, disconnect your city water connection, turn your water pump off, and step here on the toilet lever for just a moment to relieve the pressure on the water lines. You could, of course, use the sinks to do this, but the toilet is faster, and using the toilet will also clear the water that's in the toilet bowl, so that way it doesn't slosh out onto the floor. You do not want to tow the trailer with the water lines fully pressured. Over time, the vibrations from towing could cause a pushed fitting. All right, so we'll talk about your HVAC control next. Before we get to that, I do want to mention that this TV, unlike the other one, will move a little bit. You can pull the strap here and it will come away from the wall. Just make sure you have it secured before you tow out. You don't want it flopping around. Now, the HVAC control. When this control is dark, the first press of any of the buttons is simply going to turn the backlight on. So you'll end up pressing the buttons twice in a lot of cases. Once it says off on the top, the control panel is on. You do have 2 zones. Zone 1 is going to be the bedroom area, and Zone 2 will be the rest of the trailer. By mode, the first option we'll have is the air conditioner. Now, these air conditioners do not fire up immediately. It's going to take just a few moments for it to charge the capacitors. It's also looking to make sure it has the appropriate power to work. Typically, the fan will come on first, and the compressor will come on once the hourglass disappears, usually within about 30 seconds of the fan coming on. So we're going to wait for that. And there goes the compressor right there. Now you'll note down here at the bottom, it's a little fan symbol and it says auto. That is your speed control. You do have a 3-speed fan. We're going to turn it down to low. It takes just a moment for it to catch up. They do not react immediately. Just like so. Now, make sure you leave the fan in auto as the default, so that way when you turn the control panel on, the fan does not come on immediately. By mode, the next option is going to be an auto at the top. The auto at the top will automatically switch between the air conditioner and the heat pump, depending on your ambient temperature and what you've got it set for here. The heat pump is the next option. It typically makes a little squishy sound when it switches over. We'll see if we can hear that. Squish. Now the heat pump is going to operate down to about 50 degrees. After that, you're going to want to switch over to the furnace, but the furnace is going to be on zone 2. So on zone 1, after the heat pump, we have the fan only option and then off. We're going to switch back to the air conditioner just for a moment, wait for it to switch over. And now we'll switch zones, and because we're plugged into a 50 amp service, we'll be able to fire them both up. Were we on a 30 amp service with one air conditioner already running, if we try to turn the other one on, it's going to act like it wants to come on, it simply never will. Without the appropriate power, it's not going to come on and cause itself damage. We'll wait just a few moments to get this one to kick in. All right, there goes the fan on the second zone. We're still waiting on the compressor. And there goes the compressor. So what we'll do now is switch zones. We're going to cycle all the way through to off on zone 1. And if you guys were standing here, you would be able to note that the air is still blowing out of the ducting for the bedroom zone. It is one set of ducting with 2 air conditioning systems. There is no divider in the ductwork here. So one air conditioner can cool the entire trailer, provided it's not 115 degrees outside. On those days, you're going to want to make sure you've got a 50 amp service and run both air conditioners simultaneously. On zone 2, we're going to have the same options. So we have the auto at the top and the heat pump. We'll see if we can hear it squish over. Squish. Now on zone 2, after the heat pump is where we'll find the furnace. The furnace is going to disable the overhead. It's going to come on down below separately. Now even though the furnace is controlled through this control panel, it will work off of just the batteries. The furnace is using propane for heat. It's also very low electricity draw. Also does not light immediately. It's going to take about 10 seconds to light. It does sort of wail a little bit when we do. So we'll listen for that. There it goes. I will also mention if you're plugged into your shore service, you can select a fan speed to turn on the overhead fan. It will draw that furnace air up into the ducting and help redistribute it throughout the trailer. So that way the trailer is heated a little more evenly. Please make sure you remember to return that to auto before you turn the control panel off. And then of course on zone 2 after the furnace, we have the same fan only option. You will be required to select a speed to get that to work. Cycle all the way through to off on both zones before you turn the control panel off. So that way when you turn the control panel on, it does not come on to whatever you had been using previous. You will also note if you can hear it, the furnace is still running even though we've turned it off here. The furnace is going to continue to run for 2 minutes after you've turned it off. It's allowing it to cool itself. So you want to allow that to finish before you take the power away from the trailer. Follow me back towards the rear and we will go over the fantastic exhaust fan. This is an exhaust fan. We're going to turn it completely off and you'll note now the lid switch is disabled. This is the lid switch here. This one opens and closes the lid. So we'll have to select a speed to enable that switch. So on 0, this switch is disabled. On 1 through 3, if I can get it on there, it will work. We will turn on the fan speed here. Remember, this is drawing air out of your trailer. It is an exhaust fan. We've got a little thermostat here. So in between the clicks, when the temperature crosses that threshold, it will turn itself off and on. Also has a built-in rain sensor, so if it gathers enough moisture, it's going to close on its own, and when it does, it will turn itself off. Please remember the lid is made of plastic, so you do not want to tow with it open. It will cause some damage. And that's it, y'all. I hope y'all enjoy your trailer. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for watching our video. If you have any questions or have any recommendations on content you'd like to see, make sure to drop a comment in the comment section below. If you enjoy our content, give us a like and be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks again from Airstream DFW.